discussions go into its final night. Tonight marks the end of this journey that began 9 days ago. Tonight is a night of Masaib. Tonight is a night of Huzn. Tonight is a night of Baqa. Tonight is a night of giving condolences to Fatima al-Zahra. If it wasn't for the fact that we've got a topic to finish, tonight is worthy enough of just sitting and crying for Ahlul Bayt. But also know that nights like these are nothing less than Laylatul Qadr. On nights like these, a human being's destiny is changed. The most important thing though is this: if you remember what we said on the very first night, Shaitan has a way of starting a fitna in every holy period. Now that we're coming to the end, be very vigilant not to get sidelined. In the next 24 hours, just get off your phones. Focus upon the Azaf Sayyid al-Shuhada. Tomorrow is going to be a long day, but tonight is going to be a long night. Tonight, within a blink of an eye, a person can become hur. Tonight is that night that you can change your taqdeer. If a person's dua has not been answered, tonight is that night that their dua can be answered. Tonight is something that if a person doesn't have ma'rifah of, unfortunately they've not got ma'rifah of anything. Tonight is important because tonight symbolizes that movement from Tharullah to Baqiyatullah. So tonight is a night for that person who's utilized the last 8-9 nights of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Because what tonight symbolizes is that attachment back to the 12th Imam. Remember one thing, this night is holy. It's not holy because of you and me. There's a nur in this night because somebody is crying tonight, that's why. You see, Laylatul Qadr is not for you and me. This is why we have ikhtilaf. Which night is it on? Is it on Monday? Is it on Tuesday? If you look across the world, there's people, in particular in the United Kingdom, you can have 3 days. It's not 3 days though. Laylatul Qadr is only one night. That night is because of the 12th Imam. You'll never come to know which night it is until you don't attach yourself to the overflow of the Imam. That night becomes blessed because of the overflow of the Imam. The reason why night time leads to the ijabat of dua is because the 12th Imam is praying. The reason why 15 minutes before Maghrib on a Friday dua becomes mustajab is because the 12th Imam is praying. So the reason tonight, from the 6 nights in the entire year, tonight is nothing less than Laylatul Qadr. If a person truly knew and they prayed tonight, you could see the entire course of their destiny could be changed. So bear this in mind. Tonight isn't a small night. I'm just going to request you again just to come as far forward as possible. Because from now until the next 20 minutes, people are going to be trickling in, and then they're going to be standing outside. So if you can come as far forward, and it's quite a big hall, so if you can go as far forward as possible. As the other majalis is finished, you'll see that you can tell 10 minutes after there will be a huge influx. So you know one majlis down in the south is finished. Then in 15 minutes there'll be a huge other. So as all the different ones finish and people come over, there won't be enough space. So for now, if we can come as far forward with a loud salawat, please. So look, tonight focus. Tonight focus, because tonight's not going to come back. The risk that comes tonight will never come back again. There's a special risk that comes tonight. If I was to tell you that on a night like this, there was a billionaire waiting on the end of the road to give you something, and that check was only for tonight, all of you'd go rushing. No, tonight, the one who created everything is willing to write a check. And that check will not be written tomorrow night or the night after. That check is for tonight. The only condition which is required is that your heart should be bleeding. There shouldn't be an eye tonight that's not crying. There shouldn't be a person tonight who's not in huzn. Tonight is that night that Ahlul Bayt cry. Tonight your Imam will be walking towards Karbala. Look, if I can put it like this. On the night of Arba'in, they say when the entire world is going towards Imam Hussein, the entire world, there's a time in that night when a broken-hearted mother begins to move from Medina. Similarly, on a night like this, there's a broken-hearted mother who from a broken grave begins to move from Medina, and she goes towards Karbala. But as she goes, what she does is she blesses every majalis. All the majalis of Sayyid al-Shuhada, she blesses each and every one of them. The first place she stops though isn't in Karbala. The first place she goes is Sham. When she gets to Sham, she goes to the grave of a very small girl. And when she goes there, she says to that small girl, "Come, let's go to your father." The first thing this 4-year-old girl does is she looks at her grandmother and she says, "Grandmother, is my father still alone today?" The reply comes, "No." "Sakina, come and see. Look and see how many millions of people tonight are going to your father." So tonight is that night. And everyone who's going is journeying with the journey of their tears. Look, we can discuss this, and today I will do. Tonight is that night. There's no restraints tonight. I've been told for as long as you need to go, you go. And this is what people are here for, to listen to this. So at the very beginning we started on something. The maqsad of Imam Hussein, the purpose of Imam Hussein is what? Is to take you towards Baqiyatullah. For you to have ma'rifat of Allah. فَأَصَلُ اللَّهَ الَّذِي أَكْرَمَنِي بِمَعْرِفَتِكُمْ وَمَعْرِفَةِ أَوْلِيَائِكُمْ وَرَزَقْنَا الْبَرَاءَةَ مِنْ أَعْدَائِكُمْ أَنْ يُجْعَلْنِي مَعَكُمْ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. If you look at Ziyarat Ashura, it openly tells you that the purpose of all of this, Ziyarat Ashura, as we said yesterday, is Isma Azam. If a person recites it with the right sharait, what happens? Isma Azam becomes wajib on them. Sayyid al-Shuhada himself comes and gives you Isma Azam. So Ziyarat Ashura has the power of Isma Azam. Why? It comes from Alam Quds. When the 6th Imam narrates it, it's because this has come from Alam Quds. The entire tartib of Ziyarat Ashura is Tawheedi. How do you know something is Tawheedi? Because it begins from Tabarra and it ends on Tawalla. If you look at Ziyarat Ashura, it begins on La'an and it ends on Salam. The la'an is important to purify the heart. Once the heart is purified, only then can your salam penetrate your heart. That salam symbolizes wilaya, but the prerequisites of wilaya is to take from your heart and remove everything which is masi wallah. In the same way, your tawheed is different from every other. When you recite kalima tawheed, what you're doing is you're negating all of the najasat in your heart first, and then after that you're saying from la ilaha, then illallah comes into play. This is why Ziyarat Ashura and La ilaha illallah is intertwined. In the same way that Allah wants you to take masi wallah, all that which is najis out of your heart, all of those attachments out of your heart so that you can get the tawheed. In the same way Hussein ibn Ali wants you to give la'an on those people who are the enemies. Take away that najasat from the heart. Here la'an is removing the najasat. It's as if you're polishing the heart to allow for the salam to come in. And then when you say salam to Hussein, then nur of wilayah penetrates the heart. Imam Hussein knows this. This is why Masaib is there. What Masaib does is it purifies the heart. And it takes the heart on a ma'raj as quickly as possible to take you towards Allah. Bear this in mind. Otherwise, if it was the case that you're trying your best, your best won't take you anywhere. There has to be some barak of Ahlul Bayt to take you to that location. And the fastest way, as Amir al-Mu'mineen says in Dua al-Kumail, وَسِلَاؤُهُ الْبَقَى. The only weapon you have in front of Allah is your tears. So tonight is that night. You'll see in this night that certain people's hearts are so soft that they're waiting for Ya Hussein to begin, and they see those tears that come into their eyes. So bear this in mind. So in essence, what is tonight about? Ma'rif of the Imam, ma'rif of the awliya of the Imam, and bara'at away from their enemies. But look, because I've promised a lot of the youth that I speak on this particular topic. Let me speak on this topic so you can understand. The number 40 is very important. They say when there are 40 good people in the world, then what you find is that the whole comes in shape. Why is 40 important for? This number 40 is important. 40 symbolizes istidad. It symbolizes the potential of a human being coming to actualization. 40 is important as a number for the world to come to realize its potential. When there are 40 people, you'll see that automatically this world will pull the Imam back from Alam al-Malakut into Alam al-Dunya. Pull the Imam back. But the condition is that there needs to be 40 hearts which are prepared. 40 hearts. Similarly within Judaism you find that the number 40 is important. Look at Musa alayhi salam and see. وَوَعَدْنَا مُوسَى 30 لَيْلًا وَاتْمَمْنَاهَا بِعَشْرٍ. So even within Musa, 40 days, 30 plus another 10 were given. Those 40 days were important for Musa to be able to take that which was coming from Alam al-Quds. And in the same way, when you look at our Prophet, he was told, 40 days go into khalwa. Rasulullah was to be given something lofty. The hadith says Allah said to him, go for 40 days into khalwa. Imagine Rasulullah. Why was Rasulullah made a prophet at the age of 40? It's because at the age of 40, he completed all of the kamalat of Nabuwah. Isa was made a prophet when he was in the cradle. Yahya was made a prophet in the cradle, but they weren't given the kamalat of the Anbiya. Nabuwah in itself, its perfection came at the age of 40 for the Prophet. Why? These 40, every one of that step symbolizes something. It symbolizes a manzil from the manazil towards perfection. So Rasulullah at the age of 40 was given Nabuwah. It's not just Nabuwah, it's the kamalat of 124,000 Anbiya. If you look at Allama Tabatabai, he says if you want to see the kamal of Adam and Nuh and Ibrahim and Musa and Isa and all of the Anbiya, you take every single one of them together and you look at all of them, you see Prophet Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in the same way, if you want to see the kamal of Muhammad, then look at Ali. Right? Bear this in mind. So in this way, 40 is important. Here the Prophet of God is told, for 40 days go into khalwa. Why? Because the Prophet himself has to be ready. So imagine, the Prophet who is Sadir Awwal, the Prophet who every single creation comes through, and he's told, go, 40 days. Go for 40 days, go into your khalwa, we want to prepare your heart. That tells you even a Nabi at that stage, his heart needs to be prepared when something lofty is being given to him. Where did he go into khalwa? Goes into the house of Fatima bint Asad. What was coming? Nur of Fatima. Before the Nur of Fatima from Alam al-Quds comes onto earth, Rasulullah is told, go and prepare your heart for 40 days. And then after that, this Nur is going to come onto you. So bear this in mind, 40 is important. It's the doubt of a person. The potential of a person is given to them after these 40 days. So this is why, if you notice, you've been told to recite certain du'as for 40 days, to recite dhikr for 40 days. Why is that? Because it allows in 40 days for your heart to be prepared to take that form, the surah of the next level. That form needs to be there. So for you to take the level, that form on your heart requires your heart to be prepared. And you'll see then for 40 days, for example, when you do a spiritual retreat, you're told recite this dhikr for 40 days. Recite this dua for 40 days. Recite Ziyarat Ashura for 40 days. What is the purpose of 40? 40 allows for your heart to be able to take the form of the next level. And in this way, when you're told, for example, some people can't get married, they're told recite this for 40 days. Some people have an issue with rizq, recite this for 40 days. Why is that? Because at the moment, the reason why Allah doesn't give it to them is because they're not ready to take it. So that 40 days allows them stage by stage to prepare their heart to be able to take that which is coming on the next level. So in this way, 40 days are important. Those 40 days actually are not the end. When you talk about saluk, when you talk about spirituality, the spiritual wayfarer, what's important to them is this, spiritual wayfarer. What's important is that 40-day movement that you have is not the end. Actually, the dhikr that you have, the dua that you have, is a way of preparing your heart for that saluk. It is in the end. This dhikr that you have of the tongue needs to manifest in the heart. So it's not actually about the dhikr itself. It's not about the dua itself. It's not about the spiritual exercise itself. Prayer is a wasila. Fasting is a wasila. Quran is a wasila for your heart to be able to produce that potential for Allah to grab you and take you up. And this is why tawassul of Ahlul Bayt is important. If a person does tawassul of Ahlul Bayt, the heart becomes ready to be pulled up. So let me take it, and the youth asked me for this, so this is why, because 90% is youth. Bear with me. Look, there's two places in the Quran that tells you our Nabi was more lofty than all of the other Anbiya. When it comes to Musa, وَلَمَّا جَاءَ مُوسَى لِمَكَاتِنَا, Musa himself has to go towards Allah. That is a salik that works his way towards Allah. But when it comes to Rasulullah, it says, Subhanalladhi asra bi abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-harami ila al-masjid al-aqsa. Rasulullah doesn't need to go anywhere. Allah takes him from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa. The difference between Musa and Muhammad is just that. Musa and all of the other Anbiya go to Allah. When it comes to Rasulullah, Allah takes him towards him. In Irfan, the first is known as Salik, and the second one is known as somebody who's Jazb. He's a Jazbi Arif, someone who Allah himself pulls. This is why you may notice Rasulullah Sahib-e-Walaya, when he's taken towards the heavens, what does Allah say? He says, how do you want me to communicate with you? Because it has to be a mode of communication. Allah's la mahdud. What does Rasulullah, what does Allah say? He said, I looked into your heart and I saw that the most beloved is Amir al-Mu'mineen. The most beloved is Ali to you. What does that mean? It means is Nur is only compatible with Nur. Nur is only attracted to Nur. What is Ali? Ali and Muhammad are of the same Nur, and that Nur is the Nur of Allah. Allah looked into his heart to see. In fact, no, Allah was looking at the mirror and looking at his own reflection. What Allah saw in that, when there was Muhammad and Allah there, that Ali was required, necessary for Allah to communicate. No, you didn't understand. You didn't understand. You understood parts of it, you didn't understand all of it. Well, I can see by your face. I've lost you on that. You didn't understand. Let me try and explain it a bit more. How do you come to know Allah? If it was darkness, you'd be blinded. If I switch off all of these lights, what are you going to see? Nothing. When the light comes on, I can see you. The minute I see you, because of the wasila of that light, I have ma'rif of you. Because of the wasila of the light, I have ma'rif of you. You have ma'rif of Allah because of the wasila of the light, which is Ali. Ahlul Bayt have said, had it not been for us, nobody would have understood Tawheed. That light of Rasulullah. So Rasulullah is loftier than Amir al-Mu'mineen. Actually, the light is haqiqat al-Muhammadi. The batin of that light is Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now let me put it another way. If the light cannot be separated into pieces. But for 1 minute, just for your own sake, think about this. The body is Rasulullah. The ruh is Fatima. Why? Because Rasulullah says, Fatima ruhul lati bayna jambayn. The nafs is the Prophet. The qalb is Hassan and Hussein. When all of this comes together, the heart cannot exist without the ruh. The ruh cannot exist in this physical world without the nafs. So when all of it comes together, when Ahl al-Kisa come together, it's what equals Nurullah. So with this, so in this way, those 40 days are important, because what you're doing, and especially, you may ask the question, what separates you then from other mystics? Obviously there's been other mystics. What separates is that our journey is faster. Why? When you appeal to Ahlul Bayt take you up. In these 40 days, therefore, leading up to Arba'in, bear this in mind, tomorrow will be the first day. The days that go to Arba'in is the day of preparedness. When you get to the last day, remember, Arba'in is mansub to Zainab, Sayyidah Zainab. This tells you there's a power within Sayyidah Zainab that takes the Shia of Ali all the way up. Look, let me put it another way. now that the youth have asked, like I was trying not to raise this issue because it's complex. I'm trying to simplify it as best as possible. For the rest of this, inshallah, we'll hold classes. But for this specific thing, let me tell you. The journey of a salik is a journey of the inside. Right? It's an internal journey. I once asked the eldest son of, we were sitting there in fact a couple of years back in Najaf. I got a message. The eldest son of Abbas said he said, come. So two brothers from Birmingham, very prominent members of the Birmingham Jamaat, Dr. Zain and Hussein Abdi. I said, look, let's all go. So we all ended up going. Because Allah was calling us, he's in Najaf. Now remember, these elderly people, they have secrets. Secrets in the sense they give you things. Just to be with them, it's like you've benefited. He said something. He said that after my father's passing, he says, I saw my father and I asked him a question about Allah. He says, is what I think is correct? And his father says, yes. He says, Allah's found there. Your internal journey takes you towards Allah. In essence, when you journey into the heart, that is Tawheed al-Muqayyad. But when you come to that nur inside of your heart, which is Muqayyad, it takes you to that which is absolute. So the journey is the journey of the heart. Your Allah is what your perception of God is. I'll give you an example. You see this water. In the spiritual sense, every single thing in creation is a combination of names of Allah on the spiritual plane. In the physical plane, water is HO2, 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. In the spiritual sense, water is what? Ar-Rahman, Al-Latif, Al-Hay. When these three names come together, it produces water. So the potential of water is maximum those three names. It can't get any more than that. In the same way, Shaitan, Ar-Rahman, Mudil, Mutakabbir, Aziz and Jabbar, for example. That's Shaitan's potential. Shaitan can't see any further than that. It's just that. For you, for example, there could be 7, 8 names. For somebody else, it could be 10 names. Al Muhammad is the name Allah itself. This is why you notice that Al Muhammad are abduhu. If you look at what you say in praise for the Prophet, abduhu wa rasuluh. The only Abdullah in creation is Ahlul Bayt. Muhammad and Al Muhammad. Nobody else can be Abdullah because nobody else has the potential to understand Allah for what Allah is. Your potential is only as far as your name's inside of you. Bear this in mind. So in this way, if your name is only 4, you only have potential for 4. So therefore, those names are inside of you. Your journey goes inside. So actually, you are only worshipping the Rabb inside of you. That Rabb which nurtures you are the names of Allah that you inside of you that make you. Ahlul Bayt are the only ones whose batin is Allah itself. Right? Now we're getting into realms which are complex. I don't want to push the envelope anymore because it requires for an in-depth conversation. Up to that point is fine. Let me take it a stage further then. Slowly we're building up on this. There's an internal journey. The physical body, right? Your physical body is something known as Sharia. That Sharia is being given to you to purify your body, to purify your tongue, to purify your amal. When you've done that, from the body you go to alam and nufus. So the next stage up is when you come to alam and nufus. This alam and nufus is important for you to purify again your sifat. So for example, from your physical traits, you go to your spiritual traits. So for example, if a person's akhlaq is bad, lies, cheats, isn't saqi, isn't generous, isn't kind, all of those perfections come in alam and nufus. So your nafs basically is purified. For your nafs to be purified is important for you then to actualize Ahlul Bayt. Right? Because at this stage you haven't done. Your nafs therefore has to be purified. Sharia is there to purify your physical, tatir of all of your characteristics. And that has a ramification on your nafs. So your nafs now, so when you stop lying, when you stop cheating, when you take all of the names of Allah's qualities inside of yourself, what's happened? Very quickly, what's happened is that you purified your nafs. But this isn't sufficient either, because from your nafs then you travel to your qalb. Your qalb is important. From that, qalb comes from qalaba, inqilab basically, means to change the heart. Revolution in the Latin, to revolve. So ultimately, a revolution is actually not about physical violence, it's actually about changing the heart. What Imam Hussein did in Karbala was to change the hearts of the people until the Day of Judgment. Had it just been a physical revolution, it would have ended. So the Imam's movement is not a revolution in terms of a war, it's the state of the heart. This is why Hussein is the king of hearts. So qalb basically has two sides to it. One side that faces the aql, which is Allah. The other side which faces the nafs and the dunya. In between that it rotates. The purpose of the spiritual wayfarer is for your heart to go to the maqam of aql. When you get to aql, none of us have aql. Everyone is in a state of waham until you don't divorce yourself from the nafs. When you've divorced yourself from the physical nafs, which takes you in the nafs al-ammaratin bis-su, only then do you come to nafs al-mutmainna. Look, I'm going to leave it there because it's a complex discussion and I can see that it is complex. But what I'll say to you is this: to get to the maqam of the aql requires for you to understand Ali ibn Abi Talib. Why? Because aql kul is Ali, nafs kul is Fatima. The tathir of the nafs is important to get to aql. The harat of the nafs can only be there when Fatima is actualized. Bear this in mind. Hazrat Zahra therefore is important. Ma'rif of Zahra, it is that which takes a person to maqam Muhammad. Otherwise you can never get there. So bear this in mind. Let me give you a story. Now that we're there. Now I've given you the philosophy. And I had to, because I was being pressured by the youth. Tell us something. Fine, I've told you. This is a lecture for another 40 days, by the way. Now let me tell you a story. Ahlul Bayt. Remember what I said on the first night. All of the philosophy on one side, all of the irfan on one side. The most important thing is this: submit yourself to Ahlul Bayt and you see naturally your heart becomes pure. The condition is submission. If your heart isn't submitted, you'll never get to where you need to get to. There was a woman, Maraja have given the story. If the Maraja hadn't given the story, I wouldn't have given the story. But before I begin the story, can I ask you to come as far forward as possible, please, with the salawat. So there's other second batches coming. And every batch has told me recite as slowly as possible so we can catch it. So if you can come as far forward, so now the third batch is going to come in the next 3-4 minutes. So come as far forward as possible if you can do. And those people, quickly come. For those people who are coming through the door, come quickly before I begin this. Come as far forward as possible. Ya Allah, another salawat please. It's almost... reminds me of a medical clinic where the doctors are coming in shifts. But look, let me tell you the story. If the Maraji hadn't told us, I wouldn't tell you this. Those, especially those Maraji who were born in Mashhad. So already you know now which one I'm hinting towards. These Maraji who were born in Mashhad, they're given a story. They say there used to be a woman. Now people always ask, they say, why do you go to graves of people who have left this world? Look, the Quran says, if you want your repentance to be accepted, go to Rasulullah. Sahih Muslim is there. Right? Who's narrating this? They are. Right? What are they saying? What's Sahih Muslim saying? Saying that a Badun, it says basically one of the Arab came, a Bedouin came. When he heard this tradition, the hadith says that he came to Rasulullah, to Medina. He realized Rasulullah had passed away. So he went on to the grave of the Prophet, he began to cry. But when he began to cry, he says, Ya Rasulullah, I'm too late. A voice from the grave came, it doesn't matter, even after my physical death, still when you take my name, I'll be there to purify you. This is why Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, not Muhammad was the messenger of Allah. If he was the messenger of Allah, then there's no point going to his grave. But if he is the messenger of Allah, it means that keep on going to his grave. Right, bear this in mind. Those people who stop you from going to the grave of the Prophet haven't realized that they can't become Muslim without affirming the fact that Muhammad is the messenger. When you say was, you cease to be a Muslim. Why? Musa was the messenger, so you're not Jewish. Why? Because he was the messenger. Isa was the messenger, you believe in him, but you're not Christian because he was the messenger. Ibrahim was the messenger, but when you say Muhammad is the messenger, then you become Muslim. You see? So this is why it's important. And in the same way Muhammad is the messenger, Ali is the Imam. Talqeen is that Hassan is the Imam, Hussein is your Imam, Ali ibn al-Hussein is your Imam, Muhammad ibn Ali is your Imam, Ja'far ibn Muhammad is your Imam, Musa ibn Ja'far is your Imam, Ali ibn Musa is your Imam, Muhammad ibn Ali is your Imam, Ali ibn Muhammad is your Imam, Hassan ibn Ali is your Imam. And if I go any further, all of you will have to stand up. Right? And the Hujjat of Allah is your Imam. There's a name of the Imam, if I was to say it, it becomes mandatory and everybody to stand. Even Imam Hussein, when he used to use this name, they used to stand. Bear this in mind. Sixth Imam used to use this particular, so I've not used that name. Because if I did, then all of you'd have to stand. It's not a bad thing to stand either. By the way, I tell you something. When Amir al-Mu'mineen used to say salam to Imam Hussein, he would stand. This tells you that when it comes to the ziyarah, remember, this is all maqam-e-ishq. For you, it's not to sit down and recite ziyarah. When the name of Sayyid al-Shuhada comes, stand. Imagine Ali ibn Abi Talib. Imagine Amir al-Mu'mineen. They came to the sixth Imam and they said to him, Mawla, can we call you Amir al-Mu'mineen? He says, yes, we may be in theory the Amir of the believers, but no, only Ali is Amir al-Mu'mineen. Anyone who claims to be Amir al-Mu'mineen is a kafir. Only Ali is. You didn't understand. It is okay. Elders understood. So bear this in mind. So then they asked the sixth Imam, what about when it comes to the 12th Imam? He says, no, call him Ya Baqiyatullah. Amir al-Mu'mineen is only Ali. Ali is the Amir, nobody else. Look, if we had time, I'd go into it. I can't take too much time, so on that basis, let's go to the story. There was a woman. She used to live in a village outside of Mashhad. What was impressive about her was she was one of them, and this is going back in the olden days. So some of these Maraj are 92, 93. So if we're going back to 70 years ago, when they were in their 20s, in the olden days, in the villages, when the women were educated, they would teach the children, basically. She used to run a school for orphans. One day, an alim, a mullah, comes to her. And in that area of Mashhad, there used to be, and there still are, mullahs. The ulama are elsewhere, the mullahs are elsewhere. If I can highlight that. So some of the mullahs came. They said, how is it possible that you're running this entire orphanage and you're educating the children? So she said, well, whatever I get from Imam al-Rada alayhi salam. So he thought she's trying to be too clever. They're just trying to be clever. So he says, look, one day let me follow her and see. Where does she get her money from? She followed her. She went. She goes into the haram of the Imam. She gives the salam. And she goes and she sticks onto the zari. Now, bear this in mind. It's only recently that there's been a block between male and female, even in Najaf, after 2003. Otherwise, it used to be open for everyone. Women, men, everybody used to come in. So in the olden days, you could see what another person was doing. So he says, the mullah says, he goes, look, I was standing there and I was watching. And he looked and he said, well, she took a long time at the zari. I was wondering, what is she doing? And as she left, I went up to her and I said, do you recognize me? She goes, oh, you're that mullah from... He goes, yes. He says, well, what were you doing for so long standing there? She says, don't you know? When I said salam to my Imam, he was asking me by name how each one of the orphans are. Then he says to her, well, where did you get the money from? She opens her hand, she says, Imam al-Rada gave me all of this money. He got startled. He says, how is it possible? She was innocent. She says, but when you say salam, doesn't the Imam reply to you? Right? What does that tell you? That tells you this, that even your risks, if you believe that your boss is them, then they'll give it to you. You go to your boss, you ask your fallible boss for risk. Why don't you go and ask your infallible boss for risk? When they give risk, it's enough for 7 generations. When your fallible boss gives you risk, maybe it won't even last for a day, let alone a month. Right? One story. Why am I giving this story tonight for? Because after tonight we have no more discussion. I want you to go home and realize that whatever you need, your necessity of life is found in the tawassul of Ahlul Bayt. Right? It's found within the tawassul of Ahlul Bayt. First story. Second is this. Bear this in mind. Tawassul, look, tawassul of Ahlul Bayt is important. In no shape or form are we saying Allah is not Razaq. Allah's Razaq. But when Allah gives your boss money to give you, the wasila, the catalyst is Allah. Bear this in mind. The catalyst is Allah. So same thing. Allah's not physically going to come and give you something. If that hand physically does come forward, it's known as Yadullah. Right? If that hand physically does come forward. So Allah's not physically going to ever come. Therefore, the door of Ahlul Bayt has been created just for that. So, look, bear this in mind. There's another tradition I wanted to narrate. Look, that tradition goes, in fact, before I get to it, that tradition goes like this. Second thing is this. Take this away as well. Never judge anyone. Right, bear this in mind. Never judge anyone, never turn anyone away from coming to the barakah of Ahlul Bayt. Whoever it may be. You know, God forbid somebody wants to walk in. I've seen myself. Once a man wanted to walk in, he was drunk. This is going back about 15, 20 years ago. At that time, I remember I said to the people, I said, leave him. Let him come at least sit at the back. You don't know where guidance is coming. Right? You don't know where guidance is coming. If a person is being brought to the, as we say, to the door of Ahlul Bayt, there's a reason. Hussein ibn Ali just doesn't call anyone. Everyone's coming for a reason. In the olden days, there used to be a gangster in Tehran by the name of Rasul Turk. He's a gangster. He used to cut people's wallets. He would do all of those things. He was a gangster. He used to beat people up. There was a thing though with the Rasul Turk. So there was something in him that when it used to come to the 10 days of Muharram, he would certainly come on the 9th night. He would wash his mouth because he used to drink alcohol. He used to wash it. After cleaning his mouth, he'd come to the majlis of Imam Hussein. They say one day there was a majlis and Rasul Turk stumbled in. The bani of the majlis got up and he said, let's get this guy out. Why? He's a gangster. I don't want a war to start here. Sometimes these guys, they can start a fight for no reason. So he got up and he says to Rasul Turk, look, brother, leave. Chucked him out. He says that night when he went to sleep, right, chucked him out. That night when he went to sleep, the bani of the majlis says, he says, I saw a dream. Now here Rasul Turk said, he said, had anyone else had chucked me out, I would have beaten them up. I would have killed them. But because you've done a majlis for Imam Hussein, and because this is the zikr of Imam Hussein, I'm not going to say anything. You've told me to go, I'm going to go. Rasul Turk left with tears in his eyes. He says, Mawla, I've been turned away from your majlis. That night they say that this bani of the majlis, this person saw a dream. In his dream he saw that it's Karbala. In Karbala he saw there was the tent of Imam Hussein. He says, when I went to the tent of Imam Hussein, I saw there was a dog there protecting the tent of Imam Hussein. When I looked at the face of the dog, I saw Rasul Turk. He says, I realized that this person, I shouldn't have turned him away. He says, I got up. He said, in the morning I went to try and find Rasul. He says, eventually I came to a, they say in Farsi, qahwa khana. I came to a chai shop, tea shop. Generally people wouldn't go there in the olden days. It was seen as a place of disrepute. He says, when I went inside, Rasul Turk was there. He says, brother, please forgive me. Rasul Turk says, come and get out of there. What's the actual story? He says, the actual story was, last night when I went to sleep, I was transported to Karbala in my dream. He said, when I went to the tent of Imam Hussein, I saw a dog. He said, forgive me for saying this, but when I looked at the face of the dog, it was you. Rasul Turk for a couple of seconds goes quiet. Then he begins to cry. He says, Hussein has accepted me as his dog? Hussein has accepted me as his dog? They say Rasul Turk does a 180 degrees. From that day onwards, he stops. doing all the things that he was doing. Ayatollah Isfahani says, in fact Ayatollah Khonsari says, I would want to go to a majlis where Rasul Turk was, because wherever we went, from that day onwards, he would be the person crying the loudest. He was the zina of the majlis. They say one day, people didn't tell Rasul Turk that there was a majlis. All of a sudden, people saw him stumbling in, and he was saying something. He was saying, Bibi Jan, Bibi Jan, Bibi Jan, where are you? Eventually, he comes to the majlis. Why? Because he could hear the voice of Zahra that brought him to the majlis. Brothers, we're all sinners here. All of us sitting here are sinners. Maybe the tears that you're shedding at the moment may be powerful for acceptance to take place. There are three things, the final thing I'll say is this, there are three things that block you from coming closer to Ahlul Bayt. Three things. You know what they are? Three vices, you could say. One of Adam, one of Qabil, one of Shaitan. Shaitan's vice was the fact that he was arrogant. When Allah said to bow to Adam, what prevented him was an arrogance which was there. Remember one thing, arrogance, jealousy, envy, all of these vices go together. Don't ever think of yourself bigger than anyone else. The one who becomes Rasul Turk is the one who humbles himself on the ground of Ahlul Bayt. When you come to a majlis, in your mind it should be everyone else is more lofty than me. Maybe they are, who knows? You don't know somebody's maqam in the eyes of Ahlul Bayt. When I come here, I know all of you are bigger than me. I know that. I know you're loftier. Why? Because maybe I might know more than you, but you may implement more what you know, and I may implement less of what I know. For example, in every sense of the word, when a person comes somewhere, when they go to a majlis, make sure all of the azadar of Hussein are greater than them. And if you're greater than me, then therefore I shouldn't have any bughs for you. For as long as people are crying over Hussein, close your eyes. Don't have arrogance. Second thing, what did Qabil have? Jealousy. He was jealous of his brother. It was the jealousy that destroyed him. Allah gave Isma Adam to give to Habil. Qabil found that. He says, I'm older, give it to me. He says, fine, Allah will test. Bring the best that you have. He brought the worst that he had. It tells you that a person truly, when they're vested in wilayah, they're sakhi. Habil gave, what happened? Habil became a prophet. Qabil killed his brother on the basis of jealousy. Jealousy is that vice that turns a person to kufr. Look, my time is going, I'm not going to take too long. I would have given at least 15-20 minutes to explain this. But I'm going to go quickly, maybe another time inshallah. Allah gives us life. Maybe another time we'll discuss this. Final thing is what Adam had. Adam had hirs. What is that? Right? He had hirs. He wanted something which wasn't for him. And that something was for Ala Muhammad. Right? Make yourself ready for Ala Muhammad to give. Don't go after something which is not yours. Bear this in mind. Look, there's a lot to say on a night like this. I still haven't finished. When I was gathering my thoughts today, as I do, I put letters in front of things. I've got a lot of letters to get through that I've not been able to. 9 days have gone. Ashura's tomorrow. Tonight I know mothers were dressing their children to come here, small children. They were saying to their children, tonight is going to be the night of Ali Akbar. Elders have been coming. You've been going from majlis to majlis. You've been listening to marsiya to marsiya. Tonight you don't need masaib. It's enough for you to know that Hussein is ghareeb tonight. Tonight is the night of mothers, because it was tonight that mothers were sitting with their sons. Tonight mothers were preparing their sons for death. I wanted to say a lot more, but I feel that your hearts are ready to cry. let it not be that there's an eye today that doesn't have tears in it. What's Fatima going to say tonight? Tonight, give your condolences. Tonight, Sakina is about to become yatima. Tonight, for the final time, Rabab is rocking a cradle. On the 11th of Muharram, when she'll be rocking it, nobody will be telling her that there's no baby in there anymore. There was a group, we recite slowly today. They say, even if you can't cry, put your head down. Why? Maybe one day you'll get the tawfiq to do so. Right? Why? If today Sahib al-Zaman is looking at all of your faces, because he comes tonight, he's broken-hearted, he comes barefoot tonight, if you can imagine. He's looking at each one of us Shia's faces. Who's going to cry? Who's going to give us condolences? And then once the tears come and you give condolences, one baby says, Ameen. And then she goes to the next one. Who knows today which small girl is sitting on that side? Or which man is sitting on this side? But each one of them have come to take condolences. There was a group, they say, from Kashan, which went to Karbala. When they got to Karbala, it was Thursday night. When they came to Karbala, it was Thursday night. They went to the grave of Imam Hussein. They said, Mawla, it's taken us days to come to you. Our feet are blistered, Mawla. We've been walking so much. And we're thirsty and we're hungry, but we've come to do your ziyarah. And at that moment, they came and they recited the Masaib of Ali Akbar. The tradition says that from the walls you could hear crying, from the ground you could hear crying. It was as if Hussein ibn Ali's grave was shaking with crying. And so that night when 40 of them went to sleep, each one of them saw a dream. That dream was this: get ready, Hussein ibn Ali is coming. Each one of them said, Mawla, you didn't need to come, we would have come to you. Mawla says something, he says, no, tell my Shia, if anyone comes to my ziyarah, me, Hussein ibn Ali, comes to your ziyarah. If you can't get to Karbala tonight, at least you physically come to this majlis. It's as if you've come for the ziyarah of Hussein. You don't know which Hussein is where. They said a second thing. The second thing was this. They said, and tell those people, they said, you've got a masjid back in Kashan. In that masjid, there's a person there who's a khadim. That khadim straightens your shoes. He says, tell that khadim that the salam of Hussein is on him. All of those people who are khuddam of Imam Hussein, who give the water for Imam Hussein, who fixes the mic for Imam Hussein, who puts the shoes out, they say, Sayyid al-Shuhada gives you salam. But the final thing he says is this. He says, and one more thing is this. If ever you come to my haram on a Thursday, if ever you come to the haram of my Thursday night, my haram, don't recite the Masaib of Ali Akbar, please. He says, why is that? He says, because my mother Zahra comes. She says, Hussein, I can't take it. How is it possible you took it on that day when you had Ali Akbar on your back and his chest was open? Look if I can recite. Allah knows, show no mother this. They say Layla had only one son. You know that when a mother gets older, if her husband isn't there, it's her son what she lives for. Her son holds her arm. Her son holds her hand. Everything she has, she lives for this. They say when the heads of Ahlul Bayt came to Sham, they say one Christian woman in the bazaar kept on looking at the head of Ali Akbar. And as she was looking at the head of Ali Akbar, they say Layla was standing there. No one told that mother that Ali Akbar had left this world. She comes forward. Why? Mother is mother. She comes forward and she says, "Oh lady, why do you keep on looking at that head for? Why do you keep on looking at that for?" Do you know what she replies? She says, "I'm looking at that head, how beautiful it is, and I'm praying the mother must be dead." Why? Because how can the mother be alive and that cut head is... Look, I want to just recite 3 with us. I want to recite 3 with us. Time is not with us. 3 with us and that's it. If Allah gives me the power to recite it. Look, I can see fathers crying. You know why? I can tell which father has a son. Because those fathers are sitting here crying. They know that for them, all of their life is what? One day my son will get older, he'll be my backbone, he'll hold my arm, he'll take me to the majlis, he'll be there for me. You can see these fathers who are into youngsters you don't know yet because your sons are not old yet. Ask that old father how he feels when his... God forbid, a young son is taken away. I remember in London when a 16-year-old boy died. His father, when he was standing behind the janazah, in 24 hours his beard had gone white. You asked him why, he said, "My young son." 3 with us and that's it. That's it. I know you won't be able to take it. Certainly your women won't be able to take it. 3 with us. Day of Ashura comes. Azan of Ali Akbar takes place. Ashab, one by one, are going to give their life. A time comes when Ali Akbar comes to the Imam of his time. He says, "Father, I want to go to the battlefield to give my life for you. I want to go to the battlefield to give my life. I'm accelerating everything." You know what Imam Hussein says? He says, "Son, for me there's ijazah, but before you go, there's 3 with us that you have to give." He said, "What is that?" He goes, "You've got to go to your brother and ask him for permission. You've got to go to Sayyidah Zainab and ask her for permission. You've got to go to your mother and ask for permission." Tradition says the first place he goes is to the tent of his brother. When he walks into the tent, they say his brother was lying there, he was sick. He goes, he starts to kiss his feet, he kisses his hands, he kisses his cheeks. Imam Zain al-Abidin opens his eyes. He says, "Brother, what has befallen you that you're kissing my cheeks like this? You're kissing my face like this. You're kissing my hands like this. You're kissing my forehead like this." He says, "I want to go into the battlefield. I'm going for the final time and I'm going to give my life for Father." At the moment Imam opens his eyes, he says something. He looks up and he says, "What's happened?" He looks up, he says, "What's happened?" Imam says, "What's happened?" Ali Akbar says, "Baqiya abuna ghariban faridan adshanan madluma." He says, "Our father is left gharib. He's thirsty, he's madloom, he's alone." Look, Shias, you've not done the haqq for this. He gets up, you know what Imam Zain al-Abidin says? He says, "Bring me my stick, let me stand up as well." Ali Akbar says, "Brother, sit down, for you it's not jihad." Why? Because you're sick. Somehow brothers depart. Both brothers were crying. The second place they say that Ali Akbar goes is Sayyidah Zainab. How do you depart from Zainab? I don't know. Ali Akbar goes. He comes and he puts his head on the knee of Sayyidah Zainab. Sayyidah Zainab begins to comb his hair. He just says one thing. He says, "Bibi, do I have the permission to go into the battlefield?" Bibi turns around and said, "I've sacrificed you for Hussein, go son. But before you go to the tent of your mother to ask." The most difficult moment is to ask a mother who has no one. They say Ali Akbar, heavy-hearted now, goes into the tent of his mother, and as he walks in, his mother knows what he's going to say. So Ali Akbar's mother Layla just says something. She says, son, I've become old now. Son, I don't have anyone else. Son, I only have you. Ali Akbar knew it was going to be difficult. At that moment, he doesn't know what to say. So he comes, he puts his head down. He says, mother, on the day of Ashura, if the day of Qiyamah, if my grandmother Fatima Zahra comes, says, Layla, your son is alive. Layla, your son is alive and my son isn't. What are you going to say on that day? Layla goes quiet. She says, son, I know what you want. Go now, fi amanillah. Ali Akbar now gets up. He now goes out. The most difficult wida is this. When he comes out, a Christian Rawi says, he says, I saw an older man standing there. The older man says to his son, son, do I have the permission to tie the amam on your head? He says, when you were 7 years old and your mother tied it for the first time, I had a dream to tie the amama on your head. He says, after that, when you grew older, Sayyidah Zainab would tie the amama on your head. I was waiting for the day to come where you'd be married. I was looking for the day when you're married to tie the amama on your head. That day hasn't come. Would you allow me today to tie the amama on your head? Ali Akbar says, yes, father. He puts his knees on the ground of Karbala so his father can tie the amama. They say on the battle of Badr, when Rasulullah was tying the amama on the head of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he was reciting Nasrun min Allahi wa fatun qareeb. He says when Hussein was tying, he was saying Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi. Rawi says, he says, Imam Hussein says to his son, he says, son, for as long as you're riding, keep on turning back, keep on looking at me. Rawi says, Ali Akbar begins to ride. An old father was running behind him. Ali Akbar looks around. He says, father, please don't follow me. He says, why? He says, my ghaira can't take it, father. Why? He says, Sayyid al-Shuhada was running. He was an old man. He would trip. He fell on the ground. On his knees, he would try and walk, lift himself up, trip again, fall again. Ali Akbar says, father, I can't take it. My ghaira can't take it. My old father running behind me, and he keeps on. What does Imam Hussein reply? He says, son, if you only had a son like mine, you'd understand. I could see fathers are crying. Why? Because they know how it is to have a young son. I've seen fathers, when their son is in trouble, he's paining, the father is paining. Imagine Hussein now running. He keeps on tripping, he keeps on falling over. Look, I'm not going to recite anything more. It's difficult for me to do so. Second time, they say that when Hussein was watching, a great warrior came. He's about to hit Ali Akbar. Do you know what Imam Hussein says? He says to Layla, go back in your tent. I've heard from my grandfather, when a mother does dua for her son, that dua becomes mustajab. Say Layla goes back, opens her hair up, raises her hands. She says, oh, the one who brought Ismail back to Hajara, bring back Ali Akbar to Hussein. Ali Akbar does come back. But you know what Ali Akbar says? He says, father, I'm thirsty. Father, I'm thirsty. Ali Akbar knew there was no water. He knew as long as the eyes of Imamat is on me, nobody can kill me. He's saying, father, I want to become shaheed. Take your face away. Take your eyes of Imamat away. Rawi says that Imam Hussein says, son, now go. Go now, son. Imam Hussein now removes the look of Imamat from his son. If I can recite. Look, I'm taking everything away, even the battle of Ali Akbar away. I'm coming to the final part. They say Hasin ibn Numair, when Ali Akbar was fighting, Umar ibn Sa'd says to him, he says, take your lance, go behind him and pierce his chest. Pierce his chest. You know what happens? They say Hasin ibn Numair takes a lance in his hand. Hussein was watching. As he takes that lance, he chucks it. When he chucks it, it goes from the back. It pierces Ali Akbar in such a way. Hasin ibn Numair says, maybe the father hasn't seen. Let me lift up Ali Akbar so Imam Hussein can see. Lance breaks. Ali Akbar falls to the ground. As Ali Akbar falls to the ground, he's the only one in all of Karbala that doesn't call Imam Hussein. What he turns around and says, father, take my final salam. Riwayat says, one father falls on the ground, on his knees, on his elbows. He begins to walk. He just says one thing. He says, Ali Akbar, answer me, Ali Akbar. Ali Akbar, answer me. Ulama have debated who was Imam Hussein calling. Imam Hussein, as he comes closer, he's saying, Ya Ali, Ya Ali. Sayyid al-Shuhada comes, he sees Ali Akbar is hiding something. Look, I can't recite anymore. I don't think your women are going to take anymore either. Ali Akbar, what are you hiding? He says, father, I don't want you to see. He says, son, I'm the son of Haydar al-Karrar. Son, I'm the son of Haydar al-Karrar. Remove your hands. Ali Akbar removes it. He sees a broken spear was in his chest. Amir al-Mu'mineen ripped the doors of Khaybar. They say Imam Hussein put one knee on the ground of Karbala, one knee on the chest of Ali Akbar, looks towards Najaf, says, Ya Ali. As he begins to shake it, Ali Akbar begins to move. If you've ever seen a sheep being cut, the sheep moves. Ali Akbar is moving. Ali Akbar is moving. Hussein ibn Ali is grabbing. I can't recite anymore, but Hussein is... They say, when Ali Akbar was on the back of Imam Hussein, his chest was open. Hussein was crawling, he couldn't lift his son. Earthquake begins to come. Sayyidah Zainab comes to Sajjad. She says, Sajjad, what's happening? He says, undo the curtains. Curtain was undone. He says, look at my gharib father crawling. He says, look at my gharib father crawling. Tradition says, body of Ali Akbar is brought back. As the body of Ali Akbar is brought back, all of the women of Banu Hashim are coming and giving condolences. They say one woman isn't there. That woman is the mother. Fidda says, let me go into the tent. Zainab says, no, let me go and find Layla. As Sayyidah Zainab goes into the tent, she says, Layla, why don't you come and give your condolences? What's happened? She replies, she says, when I've heard Ali Akbar had fallen, I wanted to come out of the tent, Zainab. Every time I tried to look, my eyesight went. I was trying to find the door. I couldn't come out, Zainab. My Ali Akbar is gone, Zainab. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.